Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great week. Sometimes I create a background that I'm just not all that crazy about, and this is an example of such a case. Here you're watching me scrubbing off the salt that I had used on the background, and I'm basically just using my fingers to do that. This is usually what I do. Sometimes if I think for whatever reason the paint might be a little thick or something and that it might spread, I will use a piece of tissue, but in this case my fingers were completely fine. With the salt completely rubbed off the paper, it's now time for me to try and figure out how I'm going to save this background and create something that I will like a lot more. I've decided to start things off by adding a few splatters of that neutral tint that you see on the bottom of the paper. This will be an attempt, I guess, to create a little bit more balance with the bottom part of my painting. I'll go in afterwards with neutral tint again, and I'll try to make some changes to the bottom part of the painting. And this is really, I guess, the part of the painting that I like the least and that I want to try to save. So I'm using a size 7 round brush here, and I'm just basically rolling it on my paper to create some different shapes and some texture. And because I'm rolling it rather than brushing the paint on, it is gonna flow differently, and I'm hoping that the marks that I'm making will help guide me in my intuitive painting process. I do kind of like that little blue section that's in the middle. It reminds me a little bit of clouds, so I'm going to use that. Those textures that were created with the paint and the salt will help guide me in this process, and I feel like it's telling me that there are clouds that are supposed to be there, so that's probably what I'll end up doing. At this point, I'm still not 100% crazy with what I've done with the background, but I do like it better and I feel like I have more to work with. So I'm starting my process now by using my black fountain pen to basically draw some lines. They're not parallel lines or straight lines or anything. I'm really following some of the patterns and marks that I'm seeing in the background that was created by the paint as it dried. Once I've established these first two lines, I keep working with the same pen and intuitively just add a few shapes to my background. Since I started with a background that I wasn't too crazy about, there's really nowhere to go but up with this painting. And if nothing else, I will definitely learn something about how to either fix a background that I'm not really crazy about and how to improve it, or I'll just learn something about some of the marks that I'm making, and in the end, learning can be one of the most gratifying gifts that come from the intuitive painting process. By using the simplest of marks, I always make sure that I keep the process moving along. And as I'm moving along, I pay attention to the impressions that I am getting in my gut, I guess, what I feel intuitively. And that's how I make decisions about what will come next. It's not something that's decided ahead of time. It really is a process that flows from one move to another. Sometimes when I'm painting in this way, I get really excited about the discoveries I make along the way. And then some other times, even though I'm not really all that satisfied with the results of my painting, I learn something and I figure out some new ways of either using my tools or new marks that I really enjoy making. And so that in itself can be very exciting and very validating. So I try to always offer myself a lot of compassion when I'm working in this way, or when I'm creating it anyway in general. The creative process can be a very vulnerable experience, and especially when you're sharing it with other people. So it's good to be able to be compassionate with ourselves and to be patient and to offer ourselves the kind of encouragement and support that we need. Sometimes we're so kind to other people and we can be so hard on ourselves, and I'm no different than other people when it comes to this. I have historically been very hard on myself, and over the years, I have learned that I feel better about myself and I generally do better when I can offer myself compassion and I can recognize that, I am always trying my best. And as long as I'm trying my best, that's what matters the most. So by offering myself compassion and being patient with my creative process and my learning process, things generally go a lot better. I feel better, and I also feel like creating more. Stippling is something I include in a lot of my paintings, and the reason I like to include it is because it really helps to create a bit of depth and texture in a painting, and it's also very easy to create. Remember earlier when I mentioned that I felt like that middle part of the painting was reminiscent of clouds? I've decided to create clouds in my painting by basically doing some swirls with my white pen. I'm sensing that the bottom portion of my painting still needs a little bit more contrast. So I'm going in with my white pen and I'm connecting some of the lines I've created, and I'm also adding some more details to make it a little bit more contrasting with that neutral tint that's in the background. And this creates more visual interest. I had initially decided to paint my sun in a lighter iridescent gold, and I didn't like it because I felt it was too light. So I went back in with a color called Gold Satin, and I like it way better because it really warms up those cooler colors in the background, and I felt that this was necessary for balance. Sometimes it takes me a while to start using a new color, but then when I do, I like it so much that I want to use it over and over again, and I can see myself using this one a lot because it's really, really pretty. Even though that gold satin is really pretty, the sun is looking a little too flat and needs some contrast to balance with the bottom portion of the painting. So I'm using my black pens to add a few little details like some lines and some stippling. And very shortly, I'm also going to go in with a marker to try and add a little bit more contrast in the middle. But unfortunately, when I started applying it, it went a little thicker than I was hoping to apply it. And so I just decided to go with that and sort of use the accident and create my sun in a different way. The dots I'm creating now help to balance out that dark center of the sun. The final reveal is always such a satisfying part of the process for me. And in the end, I feel that I was able to take a background that I didn't like so much and turn it into something that I actually love quite a bit. That gold satin really is gorgeous, and I'm so happy I decided to use it in this painting. Here's a closer look. I really love the challenge of working through a project like this one. What do you think about the challenge of working with a background that you don't feel so crazy about initially? As always, it was really fun to create this little project for you. I hope you enjoyed the process. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful week. Oh, and don't forget, happy creating!